Alex Cosper and Sam Kadura, Social Music Talk. Brand new show where we talk about music and what's going on in the world of music. In other words, the players, the people who make things happen, including the artists. And today we'll be talking with Carmaig DeForest. Hi, Carmaig.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Great. Thanks for calling in from Seattle, right?
Yep.
All right. So we're going to be talking about how music is this thing that a lot of people love because it's, I don't know, it's like medicine, but at the same time it filters through big biz and it becomes something else, like cookie cutter, fast food type stuff.
Sure.
So you know that the Grammys are coming up a week from tomorrow, right?
Yeah, a little bit. It's not really on my radar.
It's never on my radar. But this year, I might be talking with somebody that's involved with the Grammys. So just wondered if I was curious if it was on your radar, because I'm curious how many people even think about the Grammys anymore.
I don't know. I don't. I have kids. I have an 11-year-old and a boy who just turned 14. And I remember last year he was interested in the Grammys, so I went and set up we don't, like many people these days, don't even have a way of getting broadcast TV. But I bought a cheap digital antenna and set it up to our TV, and we tuned in, and he thought it was pretty silly.
Really? Well, good for him. No.
Yeah.
Well, it just seems silly now because all it is really the industry voting about its own, artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a trade association. NARIS is their name, National Association. And I also think to that extent, like it's fine. I mean, especially on a smaller, on a craftsmanship label, for people to get together. Like I know Michael Graves, who worked on, as you know, my record that I made 30-something years ago had been out of print.
We'll be talking about that.
Small label in Los Angeles they reissued it. But the mastering engineer that Omnivore uses is this guy, Michael Graves. And my project wasn't that difficult for him, but he's done things where he's taken really distressed old tapes and gets them sounding crisp and stuff, and he's won Grammys for it. And I'm thinking, well, these are people who know the craft involved and know the work involved, and want to honor it. And I think that's like on that level, like there's something good about it. And
right, but people shouldn't confuse it as the ultimate reward in music, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yes, I definitely with you on that. Like it doesn't mean anything beyond that, and everybody. I mean, because it's people's livelihood and life, and there's politics within the industry,
right? Careers.
It doesn't, to say something was the best album or the best song or whatever. That's kind of like it doesn't. It just means that this group of people collectively made that decision, and
right.
I don't know.
Right, certain artists attract certain attention from certain people in the industry, and the industry has its certain standards. And I think I have higher standards, but then again, they're going by a whole different ballgame. They have to sell product. All I do is listen and buy it,
Right, exactly. So you have to have access to it, and I guess that back in the old days, having a Grammy might mean that your record was visible to people that it might not be visible to, and now we have other ways of talking about
relevant music.
with each other.
Yeah. The internet.
Yes.
The internet is becoming the star for the indie world, it seems to me. But let's go back a few decades. Like you mentioned earlier, you had an album, "I Shall Be Re-Released." Was that the original name of it, or the later name?
No, the original was "I Shall Be Released."
Okay. And that was a Bob Dylan song, right?
That was, yes. It was named after a Bob Dylan song. The producer I worked with was Alex Chilton.
Right. Who we want to talk about a little bit. But first, how did you get to know Alex Chilton?
Well,
by the way, he's the lead singer, so that people know. He was the lead singer of the hit The Letter by the Box Tops, and then he went on to have a bunch of hits with the Box Tops, then with Big Star, which I guess is where he got a lot of notoriety. And then after that, he was a producer, and he produced your record.
Right. And he also went on to make his own music.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of had a what next moment after Big Star fell apart, and he kind of came back in the 80s with his own very stripped down thing, playing music that he loved, including pop and R&B.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where I crossed paths with him. He had put out an EP called Feudalist Parts, and the label that he had licensed that to in the U.S. was a new label that was setting up shop in Hollywood, having been in Australia. And so I met them I met Big Time, they were called Big Time Records, through the Violent Femmes, who were early supporters of my music.
Okay.
And so Big Time got interested in me, I think at the recommendation of the Violent Femmes manager and producer at the time. And then when Big Time was talking to me about doing a record, I had heard what Alex was doing, this very stripped down rock and roll kind of thing, and that I at that point was just really a songwriter, and I played the only instrument I knew how to play, which was a ukulele,
right?
And it was a very fluid scene especially in Los Angeles in the kind of post-punk era where a songwriter with a ukulele, if he kind of had, I think I had an attitude and an outlook that fit with all the different kinds of things that were happening in that world. And so I felt very welcome, and had
at that time
perform.
In the 80s, at that time ukulele was pretty unique, and now it's become kind of common compared to then, I think.
Yeah.
So that's
true.
That helped you stand out, I guess. So you actually mixed your uke playing with kind of rock and roll production, right?
Yeah, that's kind of where, that's kind of where I heard it. When I was writing the songs, I was hearing it rock. I wasn't quite sure how it would rock because I wasn't that really experienced in rocking, but it was kind of influenced by what I listened to and what I loved, and it just seemed like I knew that Alex was a producer, and I said to the guys at Big Time, I said, maybe Alex is the guy to do the record, and they thought so too, and they got us together, and then things got ugly with Big Time, and I ended up not making the record for them. I actually did some recording with Alex, but that stuff all just got scrapped. But then a smaller indie in San Francisco said, well, we'd like to put out your record. And a European label that Alex worked with had heard the Big Time Masters and said, we'd like to put out that record. And so Alex just took me back into the studio, and we made what was called I Shall Be Released. And so the title's kind of a joke about that when we were trying to figure out what to title the record.
But none of the tracks are that song, right?
No, none of the tracks were that song.
Yeah.
No, it was kind of a joke of that it hadn't, that, damn it, I'm going to be released. I don't care what Big Time says,
What's
And
ironic is that album you're talking about has been re-released, right? And last year it came out again.
Right. And so then, the U.S. label went out of business, as many indie labels did.
Yeah, especially at that time.
Yeah. There was a big distribution was an issue, and there was a few independent distributors, and they, it's all business, right? You're more attuned to this stuff than I am, Alex.
But but you write songs about big business.
I have that song anyway. So the indie distributors would file Chapter 11 because they weren't paying the labels that they were getting the product from, and then they could reorganize, but they would leave the indie labels holding the bag.
Right, it's whoever's closest to the bank gets to reorganize and call themselves something else and still be a company, right?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, again, I think you're from the communication we've had on social media. I think you're more knowledgeable about economics.
Well, I understand the biz side of it, but I also love, the music side more. And so it's kind of funny because we both understand, I think, that the music side is compromised by the biz side in many ways. I mean, trends in music, they reflect what sells more than anything organic happening in society, don't you think?
Yeah, I think I guess. I think sometimes they're kind of perfect storms where.
Did you think punk was from the ground up, or was it Sex Pistols getting signed to a big label that brought it into the open?
Yeah, I think that it did come from the ground up, because I think there was a scene of young, both in America, in like around New York, and then in England and London. There were these urban disaffected kids, and much of the kind of music that was being fed out of the radio reflected kind of suburban and more middle class values. And in New York, you had these broke bohemians, and in England, you had these broke working class kids who the music just didn't speak to, and bands, bands with visions. I mean, I think that I don't know. I know more about the New York scene. I've just happened to have read a little bit more about it, and I've crossed paths with some of those people. Like, I've done a couple of shows with the Ramones.
All right.
Back in the day.
I met Joey when the band went on their farewell tour. He's a really nice guy.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
And,
but they were pros. I mean, they really had it. They, from the beginning, they were ambitious. They had a real idea of getting back to kind of the roots of rock and roll, and making everything basic. And they kind of had they had a good mixture of, like Johnny was like the pro. He was all business, and the drummer Tommy was kind of the manager / visionary of the thing, and then you had Dee Dee, who was like, the unabashed artist, and Joey, who was kind of the soul, and it's kind of like the four of them together had this like good combination of something. But it wasn't like they didn't want to be. They wanted to be successful. They weren't anti business, but they
right.
just did.
Well, Joey told me his favorite band was the Beatles.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and I think that's true of Johnny too. I think that one of the reasons they played short sets was Johnny said, well, when the Beatles toured, they played half-hour sets, and we're not even half as good as them, so we're just going to do 15-minute sets.
So the Ramones definitely had a major impact on punk music, and that probably impacted you because your music, when I listen to Sam, our producer in the next room, do we have Carmaig's song ready? Cracks no worse than the fascist threat. Just curious how soon we could have that ready. Just asking. Okay, it's ready. Okay, whenever, let's hear it. Let's listen to it right now, and then we'll talk about it. Carmaig DeForest.
Cracks no worse than the fascist threat. 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 They say we gotta turn our backs on the Fourth Amendment. They say we gotta turn our backs on the Fifth Amendment. They say we gotta turn our backs on the Sixth Amendment. But I say cracks no worse than the fascist threat. 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 I'm just trying to keep things in perspective. I don't have a doubt that crack's destructive, but I also know fascism is seductive, and they're not beyond exploiting crack to get a nation to turn its back. Just say no. 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 Cracks no worse than the fascist threat. Cracks no worse than the fascist threat. Cracks no worse than the fascist threat. World War II's not over yet. So when they say turn your back on the Fourth Amendment, when they say turn your back on the Fifth Amendment, when they say turn your back on the Sixth Amendment, just say no. 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 No. Just say no.
Carmaig DeForest, cracks no worse than the fascist threat. Great song, man. That rocks.
Right.
Tell us about that song. Obviously, that came out in the Bush era, like the Bush 1 era of the early...
No, it was actually the Reagan era.
Oh,
it was
okay,
like
okay.
I think 1986.
Yeah, okay. Bush, Reagan.
And the war on drugs.
Yeah, phony war on drugs.
Nancy Reagan had that Just Say No campaign.
It all makes sense. It all
was,
ties together.
Yeah, I think I was talking to a friend who was like, like it was, he was like having to get drug tested at work, and I think there was an editorial cartoon I saw. It was Uncle Sam holding a urine jar, saying "Just say no," and I just thought, oh, there's a song there, and it was just that it all came together really, really fast. And there was, I mean, it's funny because Alex, when I played it for Alex, he had this whole he loved the song, and then had this whole like groovy thing that how he wanted to play it as kind of this kind of
like a party song,
soul rave up, yeah. And then I wrote it. When I first wrote it, I had my uke here, just banging out the chords like that. And it was very much using. I kind of channeled the Ramones there in terms of being direct, and in terms of what chord to go to to take it from the
right.
I forget the fourth.
Well, that's
to the
a really
seventh or
killer.
It was
I love that killer lead in there. That where it breaks and does the lead guitar. That's really cool.
Man, it's awesome.
Yeah, and he played
I was
it over
blown
the
away.
drums. Yeah, that was totally Alex's. That was totally Alex's idea.
Was he playing lead? Or
Alex Chilton, not Alex Cosper. But
Hey, I wish I could play that well, but you know the lead to Louie. I keep bringing this up on my show every week, but Louie by the Kingsmen. Now that cost $50 to make that recording, yet it sold 13 million units as a record, and then it was covered by all kinds of different artists. So to me, that is like the model that has been abandoned by the music biz that they should go back to. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't even know what the model is now.
Well, the model is to pay a producer like $100,000 or something, and he's like ingrained in the music biz, and he makes it all sound the same, like all the songs sound the same, all electronic and bright, and all that. And it's no longer about the artist; it's about the producer. The producer gets paid up front first, and everyone else, if they get paid, it's a theory, Whereas back then,
there are stars, but I guess I really don't follow music that much. I sometimes listen to things that people recommend to me, or I have kids, and so sometimes I hear things through the kids. My son was really into Gorillas.
Right. Cartoon band.
They're not a real band, right? They're like cartoon characters.
Right.
They're like the Banana Splits or something,
kinda, yeah.
in a way. But they're kind of the brainchild of an animator and a musician, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you know? Are you familiar with?
Yeah,
Gorillas?
that's the story. I don't know the deep story, but you're right. It's like a one-man band who also is affiliated with animation and, creates this kind of multimedia presentation. And I think he does it all on an iPad. It's like home music.
Well, he uses other musicians, and he brings in people. He brings in a lot of hip hop and rap artists.
Right.
But it's his compositions, but then there's something very collaborative about it, and some of it works really great, but it isn't. It is definitely different than
and rock
a band
and roll.
or an artist
like
getting
a band
together and just
jamming.
Right. Yeah.
So, but it sounds
much...
like to me the music you made that Alex Chilton produced it was meant for the alternative rock market, like for the stations like in LA, K-Rock and stations that play cutting edge rock and roll that is maybe not meant for the mainstream, but is still fun party music. That's what it sounds like it was meant to be to me.
Yeah, I think that was the idea. The idea, I mean, really, I think the label's aspirations were to get it to have it be popular on college radio.
Yeah,
and such that and then for me, like wanting a career, my idea was, well, if it could be popular on college radio, then I could tour with it and make a living playing music on the road.
Right. Well, that's how they make musicians make their money on the road, pretty much. I mean, there's
and I think that's pretty much the case now. Even though the distribution is different, even though there's not hit radio the same way, and all that, I think really the only place musicians can make money is by performing live.
Right.
And
developing a fan base and then branding yourself so that you're selling all kinds of items to your fans.
Right. And that, yes, and sometimes it's not, and yes, sometimes the box office is just a piece of it. It's the merch table.
Yeah.
Too.
That's what it's become from a lot of indie artists I talk with. They say that the merch is really the big deal. I mean, selling your CDs is important, but really, if you have a fan base of 100 people, you can actually sell a lot of merch if they're diehard fans.
Right. Yeah.
So
and another thing that some older bands are doing is that then they'll be playing because their audience is still, a smaller venue size. So they'll play a club that holds 1,000 people. This isn't stadium touring or even big theater touring. They're not touring. They're in bands, and they're not staying in luxury accommodations. But then they help make their nut work. It's still expensive to take a show on the road. You have all this equipment. You have,
unless you're you and you just
gasoline.
Unless it's someone who just shows up with a uke, right?
Right.
Well, did you get to the point where you were touring?
I'm sorry.
Did you get to the point where you were touring with your uke?
Yeah, I didn't. I toured sporadically. When I Shall Be Released came out, that was probably my biggest moment in the sun, as it were. And I toured. I did a national tour in a van with a band I put together, and then other touring I've done, I did, and then I also would do jaunts. I lived in California, and I would tour the West Coast a lot. I would get up as far as Vancouver, British Columbia, and run up and down. And then I would fly to New York, put a band together in New York, and do a cluster of East Coast shows.
Okay, well, that's like New York.
Yeah. So at one point, back when there was still I think when people in the biz still thought, well, this is that I was that it made sense to devote time to me, that I might that it might pay off. I had an agent, and one of the things he did, he's a great guy, Bob Lawton. He put me at a residency at CBGB's. So I was playing there every week, and then I played there every Wednesday. And then on the weekends, the bands that I put together to put those shows, we would go to Boston and Philly and D.C. and Providence and, places around there, college towns around the East Coast that we could, it was like New York was our hub, and oftentimes we could return back to New York where those guys lived and where I was couch surfing for after the gig. We would get there around sunrise, right?
Right. So we're gonna pick it up in a minute here. We'll be back on Social Music Talk with Carmaig DeForest.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
Every child is cured, and every disease is defeated. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
You were born to do one amazing thing, but most people spend a lifetime trying to identify what it is. If you're in a job you don't like or are unemployed, if you're in a state of transition or just can't shake that nagging feeling that you were meant and made to do something extraordinary, then the Reinvention Workshop is exactly what you need. Led by award-winning self-help author Steve Olsher, the Reinvention Workshop will forever change your life. The Reinvention Workshop takes you step by step through Steve's proven formula that has helped so many people get on the right path and clear about what they were born to do. Take the first step to realizing the life you deserve and desire by visiting the reinventionworkshop.com today. No more delays. No more denial. Reconnect with your true self. Learn to live with purpose and conviction and become who you were born to be. The world is waiting for you. What are you waiting for? Log on to the reinventionworkshop.com today. That's the reinventionworkshop.com.
We're back with Social Music Talk. Alex Cosper and Sam Kadura. Our guest today is Carmaig DeForest, who writes music about the world around us. And he has some really compelling songs. I checked out a bunch of your songs on YouTube, Carmaig, and it seems like a lot of your songs all tell stories.
Yeah, that's kind of, yeah, that's where it is. That's the direction my writing took as I did more of it. I think I was when I first when I was working with Alex around the time a lot of those songs, I was working very much in a pop format, like the way the Ramones did, with using kind of standard verse, bridge structures,
right,
and expressing more kind of just like an emotional moment. So usually those, like there's often a little story in there, and at a certain point, I couldn't sustain having a band anymore. Another opportunity to make a record didn't come up right away, and I developed a different kind of solo show where, again, I returned to playing my uke, and at that point I played a little guitar, and I even did some spoken word kind of stuff. My background was in theater. I was so I had kind of performance chops and ideas, and I developed a one-man show that was songs, but it was mostly I got more into kind of narrative storytelling and writing stories and using sometimes more folk idioms to where oftentimes a song. I mean, the reason they're called a ballad, right, is because it's a story. Or
right. Sounds like you were living Jim Morrison's dream. The way you mixed in theater with music, like it seems like he wanted to do theater more.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it is. It's a funny intersection. When I first, when I went to the University of California, Santa Cruz. I was very interested in theater. I was in their theater arts program, and I was on a directing track. I really enjoyed putting shows together, and I was interested in more interpreting other people's work, taking something else that somebody else had written and figuring out a cool way to stage it. And then I did a workshop with the performance artist Spalding Gray, and that just changed my life because he said it was going to be a directing workshop, but then the first day he said, I actually misrepresented this. I'm going to take you directors, and you're going to find stories within your own selves to tell, and I want you to start telling those stories. And that's kind of what set me off on my path that then where I started just writing songs. I always loved music, and that fell there. And then when I was kind of looking for a next thing after rock and roll was to, I kind of went back to the idea of that it could be a little bit more of a performance than just songs.
Right. So your song "Cold Water Park," that is an interesting story where you're telling about this guy who's a jerk, I guess, and then they find his body at Coldwater Park. How does the story go?
Well, it starts out he's thinking about this park, and then he reveals that there's some kind of meeting set up there, and you kind of get the impression that maybe there's something not good happening, and he talks about how the park was a place where he used to live, in a neighborhood he used to live in, and so he decided to show up for the meeting a little earlier and check out the neighborhood, and he was like waiting at the park and reminiscing, and kind of goes into a reverie, but it ends that this meeting turned out to be a murder. I think the guy he was meeting, it was like a drug deal, but the guy turned out to be a narcotics agent, and so the guy, the narrator of the song took it to a logical conclusion.
Right. Was that in the Just Say No era of Nancy Reagan, like 80s?
No, that was later. That was more as my writing changed, and I was trying to channel more kind of my own memories and dreams and different ideas, more of kind of a free flowing thought. I mean, it started with some real reminiscences about a real park, and then it turned into this fantastical story.
That's what songs tend to do, right? Songs turn into different dimensions. That's the power of music, I think. Music can take...
Yeah, definitely.
You could hear a song over... It doesn't matter. You could hear it 1,000 times and still like it, whereas I don't know if that's true of a movie or a TV episode or anything else, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there are movies that operate that way. And, we talked about these kind of perfect storm times. Like, I think, like the Beatles, they're the most successful band ever, but they managed to stay on top of their success, that they kept innovating and rising to the challenge, and they didn't get taken in.
Right. They stood above it all.
They didn't get squashed down. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. They kind of rode the wave, and I think when it came to when it wasn't going to work anymore, they in their own dysfunctional way called it quits. And
right.
It was brilliant.
We're still number
and movies,
one.
I think I love. I don't know. Are you like? I think of a movie. I just remember in the 70s being really in love with Robert Altman, the films of Robert Altman, and like Nashville. Like Nashville is a movie you can see many, many times, and every time you see it, it's kind of a different story, and you see it through a different lens. And
I actually never saw it,
and that sort of thing. But I think what you're saying about music there's something to that it gets, because it's also it gets under your skin in a different way, because it's rhythm and it's repetition and it's melody, and it's so much apart from the narrative. Even if there is a narrative there's something else that feeds your soul in a way that you can keep going back.
I think it's melody, but for some people it's rhythm, but I think melody is what really attracts people's, to that world of music.
Yeah.
Because each melody has its own fingerprint. It's the identity of the song, just about. I mean... A lot of songs. Now, your songs are unique because you tell unique stories, but that's not necessarily always true in pop music or even indie music. I mean, you really tell unique stories. Like every song is a one-of-a-kind song. I mean, what, do you approach each song as its own, piece of music that has nothing to do with the rest of the world?
I try to, and we're talking. It's funny we're talking in the present tense because I really have. I had a good. I don't know. I started in the early '80s. I kind of had this idea. Got out of college, and I had this. I was like thinking experimental theater, but then just had this idea of simplifying it to a man and his ukulele being out there, and then thinking, yes, I'm going to like a good career path, as it were, would be to have some kind of career in rock music, but life takes its funny tolls, and I ended up doing a kind of a more kind of folky performance art thing that I could sometimes play with a band, sometimes not, and I never made a good living at it, and it was certainly not lucrative, though very satisfying. I'm really happy with the work I did, but then I had an opportunity. I fell in love, and I had an opportunity to start a family, and that was like kind of another adventure I wanted to have. And I felt like I wasn't in a good position to do both. If I had a solid paycheck coming from the music, I could keep doing it. But
then you could rely on them.
But then I'm just hustling, trying to hustle gigs, and it involved traveling, and I would, if I could play some festivals like in remote parts of Canada or whatever. Those are the kind of things I could do, and I didn't have to answer to anybody. But to then do that and then come home to a day job and to having family responsibilities, and I really didn't. I haven't missed it. But then that record has been re-released, and I've been getting out there a little more and playing a little more, and it's been. I have to say, it's been fun.
Yeah, getting back into
it. I might be writing more and working more, and my political stuff is. As you know from our conversations on social media, I'm very politically engaged and concerned with what's happening in this country, and so. The immediate things to do were, the kind of blatant political songs like Cracks No Worse than the Fascist Threat and Hey Judas, which is a long, involved story about how evil Ronald Reagan was.
But see, a lot of people don't know he was evil. A lot of people don't know he was evil because the media loves Reagan and the media builds him up as their hero.
Yeah, I know.
Because he deregulated media. That's why he's their hero. But don't you think though?
No, he was. He was a movie star before he was president. He's a product of the media.
Yeah, he is just like Trump.
But he was evil.
Well, who was more evil, Reagan or Trump?
Well, I think Reagan made Trump possible.
Yeah, that's true. Because
Trump. Yeah, Reagan, and somebody with more historical, a nuanced understanding of history could, maybe fill in some gaps or tell me I'm full of crap. But like
Reagan's war on drugs, man. That was
don't trust the government. Reagan was the one who made the government the enemy.
Yeah,
in terms of his discourse.
Well, Nixon had Watergate. That was kind of, off the beaten track.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like government corruption has been around a lot longer than people admit.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Yeah. And I'm going to totally get us off topic here, but a really interesting intersection between music and politics, and again, this is because I have kids and I end up listening to things that they're interested in listening to, is Hamilton, the musical Hamilton.
Right.
I think the music itself, like as a soundtrack to listen to when I'm driving the carpool, it's like I think the songs are, for the most part, really compelling. They really tell stories, and they also provoke political thought, because it was talking about setting up kind of the political groundwork of our country and the economics of slavery and it's the roots of the whole system, and then the disconnect, of course, because you have these people of color playing these parts, and the music has a very hip hop urban feel to it, going as a way of presenting what these entitled white men set up as a nation.
Yeah, I didn't see that play or film, or did you see it at all, or did you just hear the soundtrack?
I haven't seen a production of it. I kind of am curious. I mean, just with my background in theater and having heard the I guess it's not a soundtrack because it's a Broadway play, so it's an original cast recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's what they call it,
right?
So the songs, and on the records that we have, I think it is presented pretty chronologically from the beginning of the play to the end, and you can pretty much follow it. You know there must be things that happen in between where there's dialogue but not music. But
well, I could tell you a lot about the real story about Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, and he wasn't necessarily a hero of today's modern people, but I could see why they used him as the star for this, to build this whole thing around. Today, Alexander Hamilton would be a Republican, believe it or not, like an extreme far-right Republican.
Yeah.
And he even though he was someone who talked about, ending slavery, he himself was a slave owner at probably before he became well-known. But he also believed in royalty. Okay. What was that weird sound?
I'm sorry. I was just putting a cup down.
Okay.
It's something.
Ringing. It was ringing in my ear, and I felt like I was losing my mind. Anyway, you know what I'm saying, that Hamilton, the actual guy in history, is not exactly somebody who we would think of as, someone we would put on Mount Rushmore, partly because he was never a president, and also he was really, really part of the old world. He believed in royalty. He wanted the president to be king, actually. But George Washington didn't want to be king. So I think they left a lot of that out of this play.
I have no idea, but it is. I mean, you should at least check out the music. I mean, just as somebody who likes music too, and the intersection of kind of the intersection of art and commerce, and right. I think it does hit that sweet spot, and it's very provocative. It's not uncritical by any means, and it's not. He's no hero.
So it's interesting that production came up at the time when the U.S. government was considering dropping Hamilton from the $10 bill, and they were going to replace him with a woman or someone else, So then that story went away, completely went away. Nobody talks about it anymore.
I think, and it might have been because that sparked people wanting to take a different look at Hamilton, which may have sparked the biography that then interested I forget the name of the. Lynn Miranda, is that his name? Yikes!
Oh yes. Our producer says yes.
I'm embarrassing myself to your listeners here.
No, it's okay. Our producer agrees with you.
Lynn Miranda. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Your producer, Sam, is that right?
That's right. Sam Kadura.
Okay, Sam, thanks for sticking up for me there. I appreciate it.
No problem.
So that Lin Miranda, that there was this thing, and that blah, 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 blah. I'm just, I live in Seattle. I drink a lot of coffee. Lin Miranda.
That's why I don't. No.
I mean, it might be that there was kind of this other, like, let's take another look at Alexander Hamilton, and even though he wasn't a president, maybe he was significant, like we have Ben Franklin, who wasn't a president but was significant. And also we have on the $20 bill, we have
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson, right, who was
a slave owner.
Who was, as monsters go, much more of a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, he was famous for what was called the Indian Removal Act.
Yes.
That was his big bill that he signed.
And he was I don't know if Sam has time to Google it. I'm not sure that Hamilton was a slaveholder just because he was in New York, and New York wasn't a slave state.
Well, they were the first to get rid of slavery, and that was early 1800s. But he was dead, long dead by then. He got in that ridiculous duel with Aaron Burr.
Right.
I think
that's kind of how
I don't know how the play portrayed it, but what really happened is that had to do with not the presidential election, but the gubernatorial election in New York, and that's what that was about. It wasn't about that Alexander Hamilton helped Thomas Jefferson become president. It was one of those electoral college, fiascos.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see. Okay,
but
yeah, they do have Alexander Hamilton deciding, even though in many ways he was philosophically opposed to Jefferson,
right?
To in the bit that I can gather from the music, he ended up supporting Jefferson over Burr.
Right, but the duel had to do with New York. It didn't have to do with the presidential election like they tried to portray it, I think.
Got it.
Anyway, we could all go back and study that, and then have another conversation.
Yes, I know. No, we're all speaking from you. Haven't seen?
I haven't seen that, but I know the history part.
You haven't seen it or heard the music. You might enjoy the music, though. I guess that's what
we're bringing pieces of the puzzle together.
It is politically provocative. It doesn't. It's not telling. It's not.
It's not telling history.
To me, anyway, it's not telling the status quo or saying God bless America or anything like that.
Right. It's not promoting Trump.
Yes, it's certainly not promoting Trump. Yes, exactly.
Even though Mike Pence said he liked it. Go ahead.
As long as we're talking, you were asking me who I thought was more evil, and because I think that as you may know from things you see from me on social media, I really think that Mitch McConnell is like the true devil right now.
Well, I could see that. He's definitely old world, but keep in mind he was for the Farm Bill, which legalized growing hemp in the U.S., and that's important. And speaking of that, in about less than 10 minutes, we're going to a show called The Wide World of Weed, and that's all about cannabis. That's coming up in 5 minutes, actually. So,
that's funny.
But I want Carmaig, I want to wrap this up more about your music and how you've, brought politics into your music. And I think that's wonderful because not too many artists have done that and gotten away with that because the music biz doesn't seem to encourage that. But first of all, what did your album have to do with Warner Brothers?
Nothing. Until the label Omnivore, which is a reissue label.
Okay.
So what they do is they're made up of some some great people, in my mind. They're great people because they re-released my record. But they also they love music, and they were all working for big labels, and they said, let's figure out a way to put out music that we really love, and there's all this music that's fallen through the cracks. Let's find a way to put it out. And they set up a business model where they can license music, like my record, like a lot of Alex Chilton's old catalog, like there's the Posies, also, all sorts of stuff from all over the map is in there. Vince Guaraldi, they just did a Vince Guaraldi record. There's all this great stuff that they license, and then I think Warner's is a distributor for them. So Warner handles getting product out to stores, getting their product to Amazon, to places that actually sell the physical discs, and I think is their intermediary between them and the digital platforms. So if you go to listen to the record on YouTube, for instance, and you can listen to the whole record, I shall be re-released on YouTube. Warner's has a don't pirate this sign on it, right?
Right.
Is that where you're seeing it?
That's where I see it. Yeah.
Saying,
they're taking credit for it.
They're taking credit. Yes, they're taking credit for the YouTube license. They're the ones who control the YouTube license.
I get it. Okay. So speaking of YouTube, a lot of your music is on YouTube. Carmaig DeForest. We got to wrap it up here in about 20 seconds, but what would you like to say in closing, Carmaig?
Nothing. I'm happy. This was great. It's great finally to meet you, Alex. After having met you online and talking about some of these things that we love to talk about.
Well, thanks for calling in on Social Music Talk here on WS Radio.
Can't imagine a world without children. That's why we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children everywhere. Diseases like cancer, pediatric AIDS, and sickle cell. And we won't stop until every child is cured and every disease is defeated. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
You were born to do one amazing thing, but most people spend a lifetime trying to identify what it is. If you're in a job you don't like or are unemployed, if you're in a state of transition or just can't shake that nagging feeling that you were meant and made to do something extraordinary, then the Reinvention Workshop is exactly what you need. Led by award-winning self-help author Steve Olsher, the Reinvention Workshop will forever change your life. The Reinvention Workshop takes you step by step through Steve's proven formula that has helped so many people get on the right path and clear about what they were born to do. Take the first step to realizing the life you deserve and desire by visiting the reinventionworkshop.com today. No more delays. No more denial. Reconnect with your true self.
Broadcasting live from...
You mean podcasting, right?
Actually, I kind of like that. Let's do it. Podcasting live
and lit
from the weed-smoking studios of WSRadio.com. We're only 20 minutes away from 420, and you know what that means. It's time for the wide world of weed. This exclusive podcast was created by the Dreammaker and the real Sammy C and streams weekly each and every Saturday afternoon right here on WS Radio. And now, two dudes who will never bogart a joint because they believe in peace, love, equality, staying high and happy. It's your pot jockeys, Green Weaver and Night Tripper. Yes, it is, babies. Night, say howdy, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Green?
Man, I'm feeling groovy, and I'm about to feel a lot groovier in about a minute or two, or actually more like 10, 15 minutes, because I'm going to fill this little silicone bubbler up with some Gorilla Glue number 3, which I ground up about 10 minutes ago. And as a matter of fact, I should videotape this for our YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that. Let me get my little camera turned on and recording.
I wonder if Elton John knew what he was singing about when he sang in Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. I get high in the evening smoking pots of glue.
Well, that sounds like he didn't know what he was doing because that sounds dangerous. Smelling like some evil chemicals, you know. But you know what? I wonder if Elton enjoys cannabis. Or at least he had to have tried it.
It's hard to say because he has said in the past, "Oh, I don't do drugs." But then he also said that
I do sniff glue.
But he said that, and plus he was an alcoholic at one point, I think. And I don't know. I used to follow him closely back in the '70s. He's the king of my music, dreams back then.
Me too, kind of. I mean, he obviously an icon in the music world, no doubt about it. But anyway, okay, I got the video recording now. And by the way, this video that I'm recording, which you can't see because you're listening to this podcast right now here on the radio, is well, hang on a second.
Where am I? Who am I? Where am I?
You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm gonna load my little bubbler up.
It's a pot show. Anything could happen.
Cannabis community, and the first 2 episodes we did were kind of rough for me. You know what? Because I was on a tolerance break for like weeks, and I tell you, man, you have to get high to do a show about pot. You just have to.
Yeah.
So
you were trying not to, right? You were trying to.
Well, I was taking a tolerance break.
Yeah.
And those tolerance breaks, man, they're not fun, but they're important on occasion. And you take them on occasion, don't you?
Of
course.
Various reasons. Yeah, for like a week I'll stop, and then, then it feels good again.
Yeah, I mean, it resets you back big time. And anyway, let's light up, man. You got your lighter ready? You got your bubbler ready?
Got it.
Right on. Anyway, Knight's in another studio. They're all connected. I mean, he's literally like less than 25, 30 feet away from where I'm sitting. But the camera's on me. And by the way, you can go to our YouTube channel known as The Wild World of Weed on YouTube and check out our videos. And I've only uploaded 1 video so far, but this will also be added. And I have how many videos do you think we've made so far after you have that draw? He's having a nice draw. He's using a vine, a wick made out of hemp vine.
It seems like we made 100.
Probably something close to that. In fact, probably, as I think, we're talking like in the neighborhood of about 150 videos already just in the past 2 months. And we've been considering this show now that we're doing here on WSRadio.com. By the way, thanks going out to the Dreammaker for allowing this show to happen, for being forward-thinking, for knowing that true freedom can't happen without the freedom of this magical medicine known as marijuana that helps so many people in so many different ways. And
I'm leaving your mic on. You can hear Knight exhaling.
Oh yeah,
and
it's taking a big hit, a super hit.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna have like a couple mild hits because I don't want to have a coughing fit on the air. But I get to get close to my microphone and talk like a boss jock from '60s radio. This is Robert. W for weed. Smoking Robert. Well, never mind. I'm not even out yet. I'm acting
tripping,
like
man. You're like a dude from the '60s on the radio who George Carlin was talking about on his album, AM FM.
Carlin, what a legend, man!
Yeah.
That dude is hilarious. He's not with us anymore.
He knew a lot about pot.
Yeah, I'm sure he enjoyed it on a very regular basis, and I think that's what made him a more intelligent comedian than most other comedians in the history of comedy.
Yeah, pot makes you smarter, in case you didn't know.
Well, I'm learning that on a daily basis now that I've been introduced. Let me have a hit.
He goes for the super hit. More exciting than the Sleeper Bowl.
Wow. Pretty rough. But you know what? This is the second day that I've tried this Gorilla Glue number 3. And yesterday was the first. And this is my favorite strain by far.
Gorilla Glue.
Number 3. I don't know if that's different from Gorilla Glue number 2 or Gorilla Glue number 1. I don't know if they keep cross, the people that grow the stuff. I know they try to cross-pollinate plants and to enhance, certain characteristics about the plants. As a matter of fact, you want to talk about some of the famous strains?
Well,
you have any interest in that?
I actually think you know more about strains than I do. I mean, I generally know what the best ones are. They tend to be Hawaiian and Humboldt, and
right.
California has a lot of awesome strains. So does South America and Central America. Any tropical place like Hawaii has great marijuana.
Right.
And what was the question again?
Well, just to talk about strains, because you know what? I'm new to this world. By the way, Knight, who is on the other microphone, and I'm on this microphone, and this makes more sense for people watching the YouTube channel as opposed to listening to us here on our podcast, WSRadio.com. But this is kind of a multi-layered, multimedia-type presentation that we're going to keep enhancing week after week.
Right, it mixes video with audio. You can't see the video right now unless you happen to be seeing a clip of this on YouTube.
Right. Yeah, if you're watching YouTube now and you're going to hear you're going to see this little clip, and let me hit up another couple hits while I talk about some strains. Have you ever had pineapple Kush?
No, but I've seen it in reviews. It gets good reviews. I know that.
You've had Maui Wowie, though, right?
Yeah, that's the best. That's the top of the line.
And I got to try some of that. I've never tried that. So far, my favorite, and I've tried about 35 to 40 strains, I'm guessing, if I combine what I've had through vaping, through edibles, through bud, through, all sorts of other. It's weird how many ways you can consume cannabis these days. They've got these balls like these. They're about the size of a tennis ball, and I've never used one. I've never even purchased one yet. But I guess you can drop it in your bathtub, and then they just kick back, sit in a bathtub of warm water with one of those THC-infused balls. And you can get one with CBD only, but it's supposed to be amazing. It gives you like an all-over body high and a head high at the same time. But maybe you have to do that one of these days. I'll have to try that and then talk about it here on the show. But, man, I got to have a couple more hits. I'm lighting my wick vine or my hemp vine.
Stash tools. You got to have a wick. You got to have a special lighter, not just the kind from the dollar store that lights 10 times and then burns out.
Right, and it doesn't even really light right in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm trying to blow the smoke through a towel so I get less residual stuff on the equipment here.
But the wick is a good idea because it's like a candle wick, and you just keep it lit for a while, because you're usually going to take a few hits
right
for every time you light something, unless you're blowing out the light yourself.
Right. And you know what? There's only 2 ingredients in this are
what?
Organic hemp is the string, and it's coated with organic beeswax.
Okay.
So 2 organic elements, and instead of breathing in the propane that comes out of a lighter, because even these lighters that I'm using right now, and then Night in the other room's using a similar version of this, you can hear them lighting up right there, and I'm going to be lighting up right now, but these clipper lighters are really great, and they're only like about $3 a piece, but when you combine it with these hemp wicks, and you know what? I have to blow through a towel because I don't want to get residuals, any stuff on the equipment here in the Weed Smoking Studios. And when we say the Weed Smoking Studios of WSRadio.com, which stands for Weed Smoking Radio, we mean it literally. Here we are, live on the air, podcasting worldwide on WSRadio.com and getting high at the same time. You know what? I'm going to drop the wick for a second because I'm trying to multitask like 4 or 5 things. And if I want to hold this towel, let me real quick light up. There we go. I exhaled through the towel that time, and that protects the equipment a lot more.
All right.
Not that cannabis is really bad for...
Smoke is bad.
Yeah,
Any kind of smoke is bad for equipment.
Yeah, the residuals from it, I guess, can cause problems. So it's a lot better to avoid smoking close to any kind of electronics. Yeah. And if you have to, if you got a real nice TV in your living room, I got to stay close to the mic. My voice sounds a lot better when I'm up on the mic.
I noticed that too, yeah.
When I'm a faraway stone dude.
Yeah, I'm a faraway room voice dude. Like, I sound like I'm in a prison cell.
But more we're up and close, man. We sound personal. Like, we're close, man. We're hanging out with our pot buddies. Oh, by the way, if you want to be a pot buddy, if you want to be a friend of either me, Greenweaver, or our number one pot buddy, Night Tripper, a sativa stoner superhero, then you got to send us an email to, we have a couple different email accounts, but the one we're going to use for this show definitely is just wideworldofweed@gmail.com. So send us an email. Tell us what you'd like to hear us talk about here on this program, besides getting high and besides making the goofy little videos that we're going to be uploading to YouTube. And you know what? I wanted to hook the computer up and play one of those videos, but I'm not going to be able to. So we're going to have to do that another time. But let's talk about the videos real quick while you're playing guitar. You come by my pad like maybe once a week, sometimes twice a week if you're in the mood to get super stoned that week. But man, the videos we've made, don't you think those are like compelling kind of and interesting and not only fun for us to make, but don't you think viewers would like watching that kind of stuff?
Well, they're fun episodes of us just, interacting how we are when we're high.
But I guess
there's no theatrical nonsense.
So yeah, there's no. But see, what we're doing right now is I'm kind of bored by this a little, and I shouldn't be negative about myself or about this show. But those videos that we make are like 10 times more fun, and I know it's because we're high. But man, we talk about some cool stuff and some crazy stuff, and it all makes sense, and it's definitely something you got to check out. That's the Wild World of Weed, our YouTube channel, and we only have one video uploaded at the moment. And as a matter of fact, Night's not even in that one. It's just I think it's just me talking and getting high.
He has to go through about two hours worth of material to find one good line I throw in. Because I'm a goofball, dude. I'm a goofball.
Well, yeah, but that's not true, man. It's like, we've already made up a couple goofy songs, originals, that we're going to be featuring on not only on our YouTube channel, but here on the Wide World of Weed at WSRadio.com. And anyway, again, our email address, wideworldofweed@gmail.com. And during the next commercial break, which is going to probably come up in about 10 minutes or so, I'm going to try to get the computer hooked up so I can play one of those, just the audio from one of those episodes. I might not be able to because there's been a couple changes in the way the equipment's set up here in the studios. But you know what? While I'm on camera, while I'm on this microphone, I'm going to have just one more hit right now. breathe through the towel. Protect that equipment. Protect the studio. Anyway, yeah, you know, it's kind of been a bummer week for me because of the Super Bowl last week.
Yeah, that's a sleeper, man.
Yeah, it kind of put me in a bum mood.
Yeah.
And it's still to this day, I'm finally starting to come out of that funk mood of like, what the hell was that?
You know what it was? The big buildup, the hype made us think it was this amazing game.
Right, and it's the legendary Patriots against a Southern California team, and we're from Southern California at the moment. So, I mean, we had a lot invested just in that concept, and then there was
Tom Brady, the legend.
Right, but there was also
that they won their 6th Super Bowl, so they tied with the Steelers.
No, I think they've passed the Steelers.
No, they're both.
Oh, they're tied?
6. Yeah. They're
okay.
6.
Well, you would know. You are the football expert.
I used to be a Steelers freak back when Terry Bradshaw was their QB when we were in high school. I thought he was the best QB of all time.
Well, compared to, you know what, Brady, you know, if you give Brady a couple more years, he might end up passing Bradshaw.
Brady, in stats, he'll already be ahead, but in lots of ways. But Bradshaw threw long passes, all the time, accurate long passes. Whereas
so it was a lot more fun to watch.
Brady
like,
is like 10 to 15 yards most of the time, and
that's not exciting,
20, 25 for a long pass for him. Sometimes he'll throw a super long pass, but he's mostly the guy who nickels and dimes his way down the field.
I see.
Like Joe Montana. Maybe that's where he learned it from, because he grew up in the Bay Area.
Right.
Mind if I do a song real quick?
Well, I thought that's what you were doing.
Oh, okay.
So please.
I was kind of warming up.
Oh, okay.
But
I was about to rock.
We can make one up about pot if you want.
Okay.
Chords go like this. It's a E. So E, G, A, G. For all you musicians at home who want to play along, you know, harmonica, whatever you got.
And now that you know the chords that Knight's playing, we can change the letters to T, H, C, T, H, C. That's better than AC/DC's T&T, man. Because you can blow your mind up, man, and put you in another realm of awesomeness on some great sativa. Man, I think I'm starting to realize that sativa is what I dig, man.
Yeah, I love sativa.
I mean, indica. I need indica at night, you know, to help me sleep and help me get over my, you know, my back pain that presents problems on occasion, which leads to insomnia on occasion. But you know, with a nice indica, man, I mellow out. All the pain goes away, and I can sleep, you know, for 7-8 hours, no problem, no waking up, you know, no worries. And that's one of the awesome things that cannabis has done for me. The other most awesome thing it's done for me is, and a couple of my pot buddies can attest to this, you know, my girlfriend / fiance / wife, I've known her for 32 years now. No, 34 years. Wow. Or maybe more. Dude, 82 to now, how many years is that? 92, 202, 12.
I'm not counting.
That's 30.
Man. My brain's not in a mathematical mode.
Mine isn't either, because I'm starting to get high now. But anyway, I've known my baby for 37 years. I've known Night Tripper for about 41 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy cow, man. That's awesome. And then and I have about another 7 or 8 really close friends who I've known for at least 10 years or more. And all of them are noticing that I can finally walk for the first time in about a year and a half, 2 years. I don't walk great. I still have trouble, but I don't have to use a cane, and I don't have to use a walker or a knee scooter anymore. I just kind of hobble along, but I'm getting physically stronger on a weekly basis, and I've lost 85 pounds now, man. Can you believe it? 85 pounds in four and a half, 5 months. And, you know, by the time I lose another 85, you know, I'll be back to my college weight. And that'll be a great day for me to celebrate. And speaking of celebrating, you know what? I'm going to have a couple more hits. And, you know, we're going to have to hang out here at the Weed Smoking Studios for about 2 hours after this shift's over because
We're going to be partying, man.
Well, yeah, we're not going to. We're going to
partying mellow style.
Yeah, but we're going to ride. We're going to ride this high for a couple hours, so we don't have to drive while under the influence, because that's something that we definitely want to promote. Do not drive under the influence ever. You know, you just have to respect the law. You have to respect other people's safety and your own, of course, your own safety, but other people's safety is more important, because you can't be putting, you know, hurt on anyone else, especially serious. You know, like a car accident can lead to serious injuries or even death, and you don't ever want to be in that position. So never drive while under the influence. It's, you know, probably not as bad as driving under the influence of alcohol, but you still don't want to screw up. You still don't want to ruin your life and especially someone else's lives. Anyway, I'm going to have another hit right now. And then we got about another, about another 5 minutes or so before we take a quick commercial break. What do you want to talk about in the next, let's do that song to wrap this episode up.
What, make up a song?
Well, you were playing a song, and
I was trying to make something up, and I thought you were taking over, so I went along with you.
Well, I understand that.
And then the chords just kept on going.
Yeah, and it was cool having some background music. But let's do a quick 1 minute song.
All right.
About THC.
Okay. Let me take a hit then while you talk.
Well, I'll take a hit too and talk at the same time. Yeah. All right. I didn't cover my mouth with a towel that time, so.
I think I still have a little left.
Well, during the commercial break, you can swing by Studio A. Night's in Studio B at the moment. Behind me is Studio C. A lot of studios here at the Weed Smoking Studios. But, and actually, they're all Weed Smoking Studios. So I was going to say this is the main Weed Smoking Studio. But here at WS Radio, all studios are cool with weed smoking, but only weed smoking. No cigarettes allowed. Hell no. No alcohol allowed. Hell no. Just only weed, because of the three things I just said, that's the only thing that's actually healthy, man.
Yeah. Weed releases antioxidants.
It helps prevent cancer. Helps fight cancer. It helps with anxiety. It helps with, they say with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, I've read recently. I don't know how true that is or isn't, but it helps with autism and with
autism, the big mystery. They don't know what causes it or cures it.
But cannabis helps it, at least.
Yeah, they know that.
You know,
at least they're starting to admit it.
Right. Well, you know what? Maybe we should, during the commercial break, if I can't get the computer hooked up, we should spend a minute or two deciding on a song to sing and make up and write after we come back from the commercial break, because we're not going to have enough time for to do a song right now, even though we still have 2 minutes left. So you want to throw out a 1 minute jam?
All right, a 1 minute jam. We'll do it.
The THC Anthem.
All right, THC. Well, my voice is all messed up from smoking pot. Hang on. Okay. THC.
For you and me.
It makes us free.
It brings us up, up, up to the bottom of a giant tree in the redwood forests of history. Whatever the hell that means.
And you know that it's never gonna be disregarded by people like you and me.
No siree. THC. It's the best thing that exists in my mind these days. I love music. I love pot, especially the THC in pot and the CBDs. I don't want to diss the CBDs because they're pretty awesome too. But man, THC, that's not bad for a goofy song that we just made up off the top of our heads. And any additional lines for that song?
Well, I started to learn about cannabis. It took my mind to a higher level.
To a place of bliss, man. That's cannabis.
somehow I aced all my tests and I became the best of my crew.
You know it's true, man. The best cannabis is the best in the entire West.
And I swear it could all happen to you
if you join our crew. And by the way, it's WSRadio.com and the wide world of weed with Night Tripper singing in the background. Actually, the lead singer and me, Green Weaver, pretending I can sing. I'm still making this YouTube video while getting high and starting to have fun. You know, that's the problem with shows 1 and shows 2, our pilot episodes, our premiere episodes. We weren't high at all. We weren't trying to get high. And I just felt so uptight. But now I feel like I could talk forever about anything, especially cannabis. So after this commercial break, hey, we're going to ramble on like a Led Zeppelin song. And thank you for listening to version 1 of the THC Anthem. You know what? I'll have to play that on Groove 420 maybe.
Awesome.
You know, and by the way, let me mention that real quick. Groove 420 is a show that might be coming soon to WSRadio.com. We're working out a few bugs and trying to get that all arranged, but it's going to be a great little 3-hour music show featuring great music from Pink Floyd to Hendrix, from Bob Marley to his sons, Damian Marley, from the Beatles to the Kinks, from the Rolling Stones to anything groovy, anything psychedelic. And Groove 420 will be coming soon to WSRadio.com. And a lot of new music that you had never heard on your radio before, but you'll hear it right here on WSRadio.com. Anyway, this is Green Weaver along with Night Tripper. We're going to be back with another segment coming up after this commercial break. Stay tuned to WSRadio.com and we'll be back.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world without their smiles or their laughter? A world where children don't play or sing or dream or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we can't imagine a world without children. That's why we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children everywhere. Diseases like cancer, pediatric AIDS, and sickle cell. And we won't stop until every child is cured and every disease is defeated. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
You were born to do one amazing thing, but most people spend a lifetime trying to identify what it is. If you're in a job you don't like or are unemployed, if you're in a state of transition or just can't shake that nagging feeling that you were meant and made to do something extraordinary, then the Reinvention Workshop is exactly what you need. Led by award-winning self-help author Steve Olsher, the Reinvention Workshop will forever change your life. The Reinvention Workshop takes you step-by-step through Steve's proven formula that has helped so many people get on the right path and clear about what they were born to do. Take the first step to realizing the life you deserve and desire by visiting the reinventionworkshop.com today. No more delays. No more denial. Reconnect with your true self. Learn to live with purpose and conviction and become who you were born to be. The world is waiting for you. What are you waiting for? Log on to the reinventionworkshop.com today. That's thereinventionworkshop.com.
Oh yeah, pot buddies. Have another hit of sweet air as the wide world of weed continues with your pot jockeys, Greenweaver and Night Tripper on WSRadio.com.
Oh, all right. Am I coming through? Testing. Oh, there we go. I'm too high to operate the equipment suddenly. This is Greenweaver, and in the background,
Night Tripper.
Let me turn your mic up a little. Sorry about that, my friend.
Night Tripper.
Tripping on the guitar. And while he's doing that, I'm going to have just another hit, and then I'll let Night have a hit. And anyway, you are listening to a podcast, a radio show, a live experiment in social redefinition. I don't know if that's even a term, but it's called The Wide World of Weed. We talk about cannabis. This is like really, I think last week was our first serious attempt, half-serious attempt, and this is our second half-serious attempt. I hope by week 3 or 4, this show is going to be a lot slicker, a lot more logical. We want to have a news segment. We want to have a medical report. We will have like a 1 minute or so medical report in the very near future. Each episode will have a 1 minute news report, local and nationwide and legal combined, depending on what's more important that week, and then maybe even some financial stock. Maybe we should give a stock report on like cannabis stocks as part of this show.
There are some that are taking off that are actually kicking some butt.
Yeah, and maybe we'll share some recipes on ways to make some healthy food now that maybe you're already a cannabis lover. But if you're new to this and you want to know the many ways that cannabis can improve your life, we're going to discuss a lot of those on our show. We're gonna maybe have a little feature called Pot Thoughts, where we actually talk to people about what do you think about when you're high? What kind of wild, crazy notions do you get when you're getting stoned? And you know what? My darn camera went off for some reason. Let me turn it back on. This YouTube channel that we're doing, it's called The Wild World of Weed. It's kind of a semi-important part of our show. You know, we're trying to turn this radio / media experience into something just a little more layered, and that's why we're going to like combine shows. We're going to have the social music talk. That's a show that happens right before The Wide World of Weed, and we talk a lot about people on that show talk a lot about music, radio, the record industry, all sorts of stuff like that. And then we do The Wide World of Weed right here from the Weed Smoking Studios of WSRadio.com every Saturday from 4 to 5. And then in the very near future, we're hoping to do a cool little music show called Groove 420, where you're going to hear some amazing music. And we might even start a little mobile DJ company serving Southern California. So if you're looking for some great music at a very, very reasonable price with amazing quality equipment, both lighting and sound equipment, and 2 DJs that come out with great personalities and just turn your party into something memorable and wonderful, then you keep in mind that we'll be talking about that in the next month or so. So a lot of plans on the horizon here from Greenweaver and Night Tripper, and I've been rambling on for an hour. So, Night, why don't you interrupt me? Just cut in and cut me off, man, and just don't let me keep talking. I'm just a rambling, gambling fool who will never stop unless you stop me, man. So please, I'm begging you, say something, please.
Well,
I'm out of control.
Pot is on the rise. I think the more we think about it, the more we learn about it, the more it becomes part of just regular culture.
That's a good point, man. It should be a part of regular culture. Way more than alcohol ever was. Way more than cigarettes ever should have been. Because
I could walk down the street and I'll see stores like vape lounges, those kind of places.
Right.
And it used to be those things didn't even exist.
But the sad thing about those is they don't have cannabis at any of those vape lounges.
I know, a bunch of them.
It's for nicotine-based.
Yeah, but you know what? Eventually I think they'll transform into cannabis places.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Because tobacco's on its way out.
No, for sure.
Cannabis is
Alcohol is on its way out.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it's like nightclub business has been affected by the fact that people aren't...
Alcohol biz going downhill. Local breweries are doing better.
Yeah, because at least you're buying a local product that's a lot better quality and is handcrafted kind of, and it's from your city, and yeah. Local breweries are cool. I'm not a fan of beer.
Right, but you're a fan of the community.
Totally, especially the cannabis
remember
community. Radio
used to be about the community up through the 90s?
Right.
And then it got corporatized.
And that's what made radio fun and good, and you want to be a part of it.
Yeah, when it was community, when it was your scene.
In the 70s and 80s, and half of the 90s at least. But what year would you say that radio started going down quickly?
Telecom Act, you can pinpoint. That was 1996. And so that was the beginning of the end of radio as the fun community thing we were just talking about. And it became this corporate commercial thing where it was about jamming as many commercials down people's throats as you can get away with.
Right. I just had a hit. That's why I'm coughing a little.
But see, radio was fun, man. It used to be super fun. Like, I'm talking about the radio in your car, man. You'd cruise around and hear...
You wanted to listen to the radio.
Yeah, there was stuff actually going on that the radio station was creating.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do here, even though this is mainly for people that are either interested in cannabis or are already interested in cannabis. But we want to have fun on our show, and we want to involve our listeners, and we want to build a little pot community here in San Diego based around this show. And this little community, I want to have a little bowling league where we all go bowling once a week. Have just a little league, and it'll be a pot-themed league, and we might even get high at the bowling alley as long as we can round up some kind of Uber system to pick us all up, and or Lyft, or just and I'm advertising for those companies, But you know what? If you're going to be out and about while getting high, then make sure you've got a designated driver or one of those services to get you back home safely. But
Could I throw in a quick story?
Oh, absolutely.
Once, as a part-time job, I worked as a pin chaser at a bowling alley.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine you doing that.
So my job was to go, when the pin got knocked out of the lane, I had to go grab the pin and knock it in the real lane that it needed to be in.
And if a machine got jammed, were you kind of responsible for that a little?
I knew the button to press to reset it, but that was about all I could do. I was
well, you weren't an engineer.
I was not a bowling scientist.
That's funny because I was a bowling scientist, not on that side, but as a bowler.
Yeah.
For about 2 years of my life, and this was like back in 95, 96. I actually rolled a 300. I actually bowled a 750 series. An 850 series.
Wow.
Do you know what that means?
That means 3 games that added up to
850.
Yeah.
No, it was a 750. I take that back.
Okay.
But it was a 750 series, and I have a patch for that. And that wasn't the time I bowled a 300. But basically, I had 3 games in a row that were about 279 each. 279, 279, 279, give or take.
Wow.
And whatever that added up to is what gave me my 750 patch. But so I took bowling seriously.
Yeah.
And I wish I had
have to get to that level.
I wish I had known about pot back then, because that might have turned me into a pro, because I swear there's something weird about marijuana, and I don't think it's a mind fuck, and I apologize for using bad language there. But it's like it does something to my mind, a very positive thing that it does to my mind. It makes me believe that I can do anything that makes sense, anything that's logical. If I want to suddenly become a singer in a rock and roll band, you know what? Right now I feel like I could actually probably jump up on stage. I wouldn't be shy or embarrassed. I could grab a microphone, and if there's a song I knew, I could just start singing it, and it wouldn't sound terrible. But if I weren't high, I guarantee it would suck. And I would sound like a fool, and it's like my voice would be all shaky, and I wouldn't be able to sing in front of more than 0 people. Anyway.
I think it can help in some ways, but it's more of a creative tool, I've found.
Oh, for sure.
To come up with new ideas.
Yeah, man. That's besides me losing some weight, that's probably my favorite thing about cannabis. It's turned me into a creative monster. And, even those videos that we've been creating for the wild world of weed, there's a lot of creativity in those videos. It's not just two guys talking we're high, man. Awesome, man. We're getting stoned again. Or do I sound like a bogus stone? I don't know who I'm trying to imitate. But I've just seen pot portrayed in movies. Like it's funny, but sometimes kind of slamming people that enjoy cannabis. Kind of making them look like they're the idiots. Or like, look at that idiot who's getting high or just got high.
Well, I think that stigma was part of playing along with the fact that it was illegal for many decades.
Right.
And so, in other words, they wanted pot to be a topic in entertainment, but the only way to
safely do it, maybe,
get
away
just to make
with it, look like they are the fools.
Yeah, when the people that were presenting those jokes, that humor, they themselves, they knew better. A lot of them were
probably stoners.
Stoners who knew all about pot and other things.
And I'm glad we brought that term up because I love that term and I love being stoned and I just really am bugged by. I love MedMen, one of my favorite dispensaries for sure. So thank goodness they're in business. I hope they thrive. I hope within the next year and a half, there's 8 MedMens in San Diego alone. One in Escondido, one in Pacific Beach, one downtown, one in Mission Valley, one in Carl's. You know what I'm getting to, the point I'm trying
everywhere,
to get to.
Everywhere you turn.
Screw fast food restaurants.
Replace the familiar fast food junk food stores with cannabis earthy stores.
And right next door, have a restaurant that serves super healthy organic type food, like farm to table kind of stuff.
Right, or it could be the same place. It could be a place that just serves really cool earthy food and cannabis.
Right. Well, that's it could have all sorts of things. A little gift shop where you could buy accessories for your pot smoking experience, or T-shirts, or little planters to grow your own herbs in, whether you're talking marijuana is the herb or if you're growing basil and thyme in your little home. Using hydroponics, man, that's a wicked concept. Do you know anyone that's ever grown weed using hydroponics?
Not really. I mean, I've heard of people doing it, but I know that is a whole different type of weed. It's like it's a lot more sticky, I think.
Huh. Well, sticky is good in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, the sticky icky, and I'm telling you, I was talking about this on one of the Wild World of Weed episodes. What was the strain, though? It wasn't the purple haze. It wasn't the amnesia haze. Oh, I forgot the name. But in the last 2-3 weeks, and actually it was about 3 weeks ago. It was the last time I got high before I took my 3-week break. It was some really dank, really sticky bud. And every time I picked the bud up, you could just kind of feel how sticky it was. Have you ever, you've had weed that felt sticky, right?
Yeah.
And isn't that weed better, do you think? I swear.
I think sometimes it is, not always. I think it comes down to the strain as usual.
Well, maybe that's just the sticky icky, that really dank, sticky bud I had was one of the best I've ever had. But I'm telling you, this Gorilla Glue 3 is my favorite. And I haven't had that many hits. I've probably only had about 10 hits, which might sound like a lot to some people.
You just reminded me I need another hit.
Cool, man. Well, enjoy while I ramble on about something to do with cannabis. Anyway, yeah, on this show, we promise that this show is going to make a lot more sense in the very, very near future. Hopefully by next week, you can have little segments where we start off with, as a matter of fact, it's on my phone right now, and I'm using my phone to videotape for the YouTube channel known as The Wild World of Weed, so I can't look at the little list on my phone. But I already have it kind of planned out where there'll be a little news segment hosted by Walter Cronick. There'll be a little medical report. I'm not just either Knight or I we'll probably both talk about the medical report and its impacts on health and society. There'll be like maybe a local cannabis community report of some type. There'll be a review of maybe a bud 1 week, and then the next week a vape cartridge, and then maybe the next week maybe an edible. And there'll be a little segment where we actually maybe go to a restaurant. And this is like the kind of stuff I'm really looking forward to. Just go into a restaurant with pot buddies that we meet here on our little radio show, the little community that we're trying to build. So if you're an adult and you live somewhat in the San Diego area or outlying areas of San Diego, and you want to be involved with our little radio show podcast and our social experiment, then definitely send us an email to the wideworldofweed@gmail.com. You don't have to put down either Green Weaver's name or Night Tripper's name, but you can refer to Green and Night if you want. Night, by the way, is spelled Knight, and Green, my first name Green, is spelled Greene. There's an E after the Green, just kind of like Lorne Green, but no relation to Lorne Green. But you know who my uncle. He passed away years back, but you know who my uncle is?
Let me guess. He played on Bonanza.
No, but he did play on like some NBC shows, and he was a movie star, and he was in one of the very first Steven Spielberg movies ever made.
Really?
Yeah. But no, Dennis
Hopper?
No, what's my last name?
Oh, I don't know.
He's so high, he doesn't remember my last name. Greenweaver.
Oh, I thought you meant. I thought we were talking about movies or something.
Well, no,
I
my
was
uncle.
Lost.
My uncle.
Yeah,
is Dennis Weaver.
Oh, okay. Are you serious?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
You know the name, right?
Yeah, from Columbo, those movies in the Saturday mystery movie.
Yeah, like NBC,
Sunday night mystery
Monday
movie.
night movie or something.
Yeah.
I forgot what the name of it, but
yeah, those were fun shows. I like those shows. That's amazing. That Dennis Weaver is your uncle?
Yeah, on my mom's side.
Wow. I never knew that.
I'm so confused because it's actually my dad's side. And I'm so high.
He played what? Not McMillan.
McLeod. Yeah, McLeod was
yeah.
one of his big characters.
Yeah.
And he was in movies and all sorts of other stuff. But that's my claim to fame in that sense. Being related to a somewhat famous, at least years back, / TV movie star. Another hit here.
Once I was in a home movie. Does that count as a movie star?
Sure, man, especially if you were high.
You know that the internet, especially social media, has turned everybody into some kind of pop culture artist in some way, or a journalist?
Could you know what? Let me say something real quick, and then I want you to repeat yourself, because I heard you, but I didn't hear a word you said.
Oh, weird.
Because my mind is like
Hope I don't forget it in a minute. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Because I already forgot what I was. I was going to say I could keep hitting, but I want to drive in about 2.5 hours. So I'm not having any more hits, and it's only because I don't want to get so high that I can't be driving for 4 hours. So I'm just going to stop right there. And I'm feeling great, flying kind of, if I were to rate this high, I'd say at the moment it's about a 7 or an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10. A solid B, maybe even a B+. I'm digging it. Anyway, back to did you remember what you were talking about? Because I forgot.
Yeah, I was talking about how everyone's become a pop culture star.
Okay.
Especially on social media.
Oh, that's true. Even if they're just a tiny star and only have 30, 40 followers, I bet that makes some people feel like, yeah.
They could get 30 likes a day just by either swapping likes with their friends,
right,
or
by sharing things from other people that are popular.
Yeah, that's part of it. And then another thing is just always agreeing with people and getting a crowd of high fives going, of constantly everyone sharing the same,
right,
celebration.
Right. And that's cool to a certain degree. But the fact that it's become so cookie cutter and so predictable kind of wipes the whole thing away.
It's like a fake dopamine hit.
Right. That's like there should be more positivity on on sites like Facebook, and I'm not afraid to mention Facebook or YouTube or any of those places. We'll promote them, and ultimately they're going to help promote us and our radio shows, and our YouTube channel, again, is The Wild World of Weed. But what were we just talking about 5 seconds ago?
Pop culture stars. Everyone's become one.
What was I going to say, man?
I'm here to keep the show going.
I just forgot what I was going to say.
I'm just a background character, though.
Well, I was talking about how I'm not going to have any more hits because I want to be able to drive in about 2.5 hours.
Right.
Oh, I'm feeling great. And
feeling groovy.
I'm telling you, man, it's this Gorilla Glue 3. Well, yesterday when I had it, I had about twice as many hits as I've had right now. And I'm telling you, it lifted me to just wow. I couldn't believe how amazing I felt, but not in a goofy way at all.
To an extreme upper high.
Just a super upper high. I felt like not only was I 20 again, but instead of being just of normal physical health and stature, which in high school, you'd say I was average, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't overweight at all.
Right.
And I wasn't a wimp either. I was just like a normal, all-American kind of looking dude. I swam almost every day, super active. I used to ride my bike to school. So I guess I was active. So but I was able to run a 6-minute mile. And now why am I talking about that? Oh, yeah. Because I felt great in high school. I swear to God, I felt like I was naturally high on a regular basis without any pot. But this weed, right now, I feel like 5 times better than I ever remember feeling in high school. And probably the high I had last night, best high I've ever had in my life. I felt like I was 20 years old, but that I was a super athlete and a super intellect, like a math genius and a literary genius and an artistic genius and a creator of concepts and thoughts and new religions that the entire world would embrace. And I'm starting to feel that way again. So I guess marijuana can make you goofy. But at the same time, I swear to God, it's given me so many great ideas. And should I share one of them right now real quick?
Go for it.
Okay, well, I hope no one steals this idea. I'm thinking about, and it's so, maybe I shouldn't talk about this idea. You know what? I'll just be super general. A great concept for a new board game that's based on climbing the charts, like a music-related game. But then I said, you know what? Licensing that might be expensive because I want to use the songs, and the game won't be fun unless I can actually use the original records, whether it's Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers or Hey Jude by the Beatles or Sausalito Summer Nights is a one-hit wonder by Diesel or whatever darn song gets featured in the game. I have to pay for all that, and that's expensive, and then I won't make a profit. But then I said...
Unless it's like local music, like jokers like me.
Well, that's true, but then the game becomes super hard to play because no one's going to know. Most people across the nation aren't going to know your music.
I know.
And that's a bummer. But
I know.
But to get to my point, I saw instead of making it a music game, why can't it be the same concept of climbing up some kind of chart, but be based on marijuana and like kind of like one of those games like Life, where you decide, do I want to be a grower or do I want to be a dispensary or do I want to just be a billionaire consumer
or a talk show host that talks about pot?
Yeah, but the game could have like all these like 5 or 6 different types of people you could be, and then you play the game based on cannabis, and it's way too complicated for me to go into now, especially we only have about a minute and a half left before the show wraps. But I do want to thank you, Knight, for helping this episode fly by quickly.
Thank you.
And I feel awesome. And I promise anyone listening right now, please go to our YouTube channel. And there's only be like 1 or 2 videos up, but and maybe by the time you hear this, it's going to be like a month or 2 from now. So maybe we'll have a lot more videos up by then. But just remember, our YouTube channel is The Wild World of Weed. Come back each and every Saturday from 4 to 5 for more episodes of The Wide World of Weed with Night Tripper and me, Greenweaver. And we promise to have like way more serious content in future episodes. Again, the medical reports and reviews and bud tender interviews and some comedy and some original music and all sorts of good stuff. But I guess we're going to wrap things up right now by thanking you for being a pot buddy, for being a fan. Say goodbye, Mr. Tripper.
See ya, Green.
All right, man. Have a good one. Stay high. And this has been a Stay High Dreammaker production on WSRadio.com.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world without their smiles or their laughter. A world where children don't play or sing or dream or imagine.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we can't imagine a world without children. That's why we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children everywhere. Diseases like cancer, pediatric AIDS, and sickle cell. And we won't stop until every child is cured and every disease is defeated. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children. After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
You were born to do one amazing thing, but most people spend a lifetime trying to identify what it is. If you're in a job you don't like or are unemployed, if you're in a state of transition or just can't shake that nagging feeling that you were meant and made to do something extraordinary, then the Reinvention Workshop is exactly what you need. Led by award-winning self-help author Steve Olsher, the Reinvention Workshop will forever change your life. The Reinvention Workshop takes you step by step through Steve's proven formula that has helped so many people get on the right path and clear about what they were born to do. Take the first step to realizing the life you deserve and desire by visiting the reinventionworkshop.com today. No more delays. No more denial. Reconnect with your true self. Learn to live with purpose and conviction and become who you were born to be. The world is waiting for you. What are you waiting for? Log on to the reinventionworkshop.com today. That's the reinventionworkshop.com.